Hey guys, so I'm working on getting Kodo Fuyuki's book translated, and there was this chapter about Hayabusa that he wrote that I thought was pretty interesting, where he pretty much shoots on Hayabusa. The chapter is entitled About Hayabusa. I met Hayabusa for the first time while I was in Mexico. I think that was the time that he was wrestling for New Japan's junior heavyweight tournament. When I was in my 30s, I had a Mexican tour for 2 weeks. One day I was in the dressing room with Ultimo Dragon in Arena, Mexico, and Ultimo Dragon told me, "Let's meet a guy called Hayabusa. He's from Japan." So I was introduced to Hayabusa. He goes, "I'm Hayabusa, nice to meet you." And he bowed to me. He was wearing the Hayabusa mask already. He didn't impress me or anything in particular, but I thought he looked cool. He looked a little bit arrogant because he was handsome, though. He had a match that night, but I didn't watch it. I hate watching wrestling. He was still young. Well, I guess he wasn't quite young, as he had graduated from college, so he must have been in his early 20s. Oh yeah, he didn't graduate. Ganosuke, who joined FMW with Hayabusa, did graduate from college, though. By the way, meeting Hayabusa was such a coincidence. I didn't see him again until I joined FMW. Hayabusa is a good young man, but he tries to look cool. Even the way he lights a cigarette, he's trying too hard to look cool. I thought it was quite embarrassing, but he is a showman. What he has is very important, though. He has the right mass of quality for pro wrestling. In pro wrestling, having long arms and legs are more of an advantage than having power or flexibility. It looks better in the ring, and you can take advantage of it doing anything with them. If you have fat arms like mine, you cannot wrap your arms around your opponent's waist properly, and you cannot lift up as well. If you have long arms, you can hold them well tight and be able to lift up without the power. If you have long legs, not only is it good for kicks, but also your standing figure looks beautiful. Some say long legs have disadvantages because it can't secure the center of gravity, but in wrestling that's not important. It's okay to fall over in this sport. I always envied his long arms and legs. Have I ever talked to Hayabusa face to face? No. Me and him were both relaxed, so we didn't need to talk. Hayabusa was a member of the directors in FMW, though, but he never did anything. It was just a title. Maybe he wanted to relate to the business, but I always said to Arai that the top wrestlers of the promotion shouldn't be in charge of their business because they should concentrate on wrestling. If they know the information of our business, they would become too caring. Hayabusa was quite a caring person, so he shouldn't be too hesitant, and that's not good as the face of the promotion. He shouldn't get involved in the matchmaking, etc. One thing about Hayabusa, though, was that he had a bad habit, and that was that he didn't train much. You might be surprised to hear that, but he was the worst in FMW. He was the ace of the promotion, so he could at least have pretended to train hard, but maybe no one said anything to him because he was the most popular wrestler in FMW. I reckon some of the wrestlers were secretly making fun of him not training hard. It doesn't matter if he goes to the dojo or not. Everyone has to exercise hard by the ring before the door opens, but not Hayabusa. Maybe he was training behind the scenes, although it was important that he would show that to the others since he was a top wrestler. He liked alcohol. Some people got annoyed by seeing him get drunk and laughing out loud. No one said anything, but some might be thinking that they could beat him in a shoot fight. Hayabusa sometimes would have really bad matches. Maybe his relationship with the other wrestlers would have been affected by that. That's the way it was back then because it was a small promotion. Wrestling needs a strong character, of course, but it also needs weak characters. Cool-looking guy, a comedian guy. Wrestling needs all sorts of wrestlers. However, the skilled, strong, and good-looking guy like Hayabusa are the most appreciated in general. I wanted to change that stereotype, so I started entertainment wrestling. In FMW, Hayabusa is the only wrestler who gets the spotlight. I wanted to characterize the other wrestlers, the not-so-good wrestlers, to make them more fun and get fans' attention to them. I wanted to use them as much as I could, and if not, then they had to go. I wouldn't like for them to stay in FMW if they couldn't perform well enough. Not only Hayabusa, I wanted all the wrestlers to find their job roles within the company, as I started the new system. FMW was slowly changing. Unfortunately, Arai ruined it, as he was thinking that Hayabusa should be the only one to win. Hayabusa was the only wrestler who could talk to me equally, though, but we never argued. We kind of got along. We understood what each other wanted. He didn't have a preference of people much. He was good at getting along with anybody, but we weren't friends. But I think he knew that he doesn't need to talk to me that much because I understood him. I guess Hayabusa was worried about FMW. He must have worried for a long time. He was an original member of FMW. If he wasn't afraid of it happening to the promotion, then he was an idiot. But he didn't like training. I heard he used to call up people to hang out with him to go drinking every night, and when no one would hang out with him, he would get lonely while he was drinking. But he would always be paid well, he was the leader, but he really didn't like training, and some people might not want to follow him. He was always complaining about the pain in his body. I told him there must be a way to train, even if you're in pain, and he didn't listen to me. I'm sure Hayabusa could perform well even without practicing, but as the face of the company, he should have shown his effort to the other fellow wrestlers to be a team player. I told Ganosuke once to tell Hayabusa to train more, seriously, and Ganosuke walked towards him hopelessly and told me he said he's too much in pain and he can't train. As I said before, I don't have any objections to Hayabusa coming back to the ring. He's working so hard towards it with hopes of being able to come back. There's nothing I can say, though, but Hayabusa must know that he won't be able to move like he did before. A while ago, I went to see him in the hospital. He was lying in his bed and he told me, I want to come back to the ring, but to be honest, I don't know how many years it will take. I understood his feeling very well because I suffer from cancer. I told him, we're both disabled, aren't we? But you have the possibility to get better. Hang in there, and you need to work to survive somehow. As a man, you cannot let yourself get fed by everyone. I'm sure he understands that, though, and I hope he makes a comeback even if he quits wrestling. He has so much talent other than wrestling. One thing I realized when I became ill, that retirement is not that big of a deal. Pro wrestlers think retirement is very important, but that's because they're too afraid to get out of the wrestling world. To be honest, I was afraid too as well. I was wondering what else could I do after retirement, but it wasn't that big of a deal after all. There's so much other things to do. I wouldn't like to go back into the ring anymore. Wrestling wasn't my only life. I feel like doing something else now. I think that's a good idea that Hayabusa comes back to the ring as a finale, but I feel sorry for him because no one tells him to retire. Everyone wants him to come back and wrestle again. Do they still want him to work hard after all that? Someone needs to say his time is up. The old FMW didn't have anyone who could say that to the older wrestlers. But not everyone is waiting for Hayabusa to return. They just feel sorry for him, and they can't tell him that it's difficult for him to wrestle the same as before, and it's not fair to him. And I don't like it. Arai should have made Hayabusa retire properly after his injury. He couldn't do it, though, so Hayabusa's still just wandering around, and it's not my position to tell him to retire, so I'll just watch, and I want him to show that in his new promotion.